Living Longer, Living Better is your television magazine highlighting lifestyles, hobbies, sports, health, travel, people, and places in our community, and much more. Information, ideas, and knowledge that will encourage new thinking and provide insights into our community. Plus, sharing fun activities of all types, understanding options for financial well-being, and making life more enjoyable. Join us on the journey exploring the many facets of living longer, living better.
The Remember When is a series of nostalgic lookbacks that bring back memories of yesteryear. This series will appear periodically on Living Longer, Living Better television and web programming. If you remember, when many young men actually knew how to tune up vehicles or even build a custom or hot rod automobile, when turning a wrench or a screwdriver was part of what you learned from your father. If you do remember, you'll enjoy this beautiful example of a classic Deuce Highboy hot rod. In part 1, we described the history of this beautiful black Deuce Roadster hot rod and its major elements visible from the outside. Part 2 takes you inside and points out the details that are both crisp, clean, and elegant, all at the same time.
We're going to look at the inside and talk about some of the gauges and the steering wheel and some of those beautiful details for driving experience. Jim, I was looking inside. It's so clean, so crisp. Tell us a little bit about everything that went in to make it so beautiful.
Well, again, we're dealing with the original seat. We had a much smaller cluster of instruments. I added instrumentation. Many careful observers will probably recognize what they are and when they were made. The truck column had to come out, though. That really, it was a tilt wheel.
Yeah.
Something out of the
50s, okay.
It was, but I understood it. Dick's very tall, and it made all the sense in the world.
Or else you could get in and out.
The steering wheel's a Nardi. Came off an Alfa Romeo in the early 60s. Been in the collection for a while. Removable.
It's beautiful.
It does not ever stay with the car, overnight or things like that. This was stolen again from Zane Cullen up there at Katati Speed Shop. The car had no horn. It had a starter button, but no ignition key. There was nothing to switch on the lights or the fan or that stuff because it was just not there. I didn't want to drill the dash for switches, so this is the product of rummaging through my junk box and others and building this and having it welded up and mounted as a gauge cluster, as a switch cluster.
I tell you, it looks beautiful, and it follows the theme of those classic gauges.
I thought so too. It was different. You don't see it very often. It's very typical, by the way, in Europe in the old 30s and 40s. As you know, all the great road machines had these little clusters off to the side. Yep. But I'd never seen it done on an American hot rod, and I said, why not? The belts I found on the internet, I remember the day that Roy Brizio was looking at the car, and he turned this over, and he said, "These are out of a Cobra. I've been looking for these." And I said, "Yes, I'll bet you have. They're pretty rare." They came out of a mid-60s Cobra. Same concept. They had a business-like look to them. Yeah. I didn't want a GM buckle.
No, they have character, and they have history. So, this whole car has character and history.
We're trying to not do the too patently obvious, and it's hard because, as you know, this thing has been cloned and recloned and done. We all build what we like, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here.
But this to me keeps the tradition of the classic highboy alive with a level of kind of elegance. It's not overdone, and there's a lot of guys out there that have some interesting pieces of machinery, but some are well overdone. They're art.
They're art. This I think I mentioned to you. We finished 8 or 10 months of wiring and plumbing and brakes and bleeding and repairing and the like. Its maiden voyage was the Golden Gate Bridge to Rye, New Hampshire. So we drive them.
Yeah, so that's the right way. I can remember down on Pebble Beach and talking to some people that have, some cars that we know are worth 6, maybe 7 figures, and they take them out and drive them because that's part of what makes them so enjoyable. I read a story about Ralph Lauren and his fabulous collection that he just had in the Louvre in Paris, and he loves to take the cars out and drives them. It's kind of the way it should be.
We were crossing the country in heavy rain. The top finally went on in Flagstaff, and you opened the door and literally water ran out of the car.
I had a Bricklin. We always had water in the car.
Mine was because I had no top on, but...
Mine because the doors leaked.
Come back again to learn more of the interesting details of Jim's magnificent Deuce Roadster. Each part of the Deuce Roadster Remember When series will appear on the Lifestyles for You website, lifestylesforyou.com. This Lifestyles website also features information on other exotic vehicles, arts, yachts, fashion, equestrian events, wines and spirits, vacation properties, and much more. lifestylesforyou.com.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.
Bobby Decker is a realtor that cares about community. Few things say more about Bobby's commitment than her support of many of our local charities.
One of my favorite things to do is to give back to nonprofits that are in our communities. Peninsula Humane Society, which takes care of our furry little friends, making sure none of them are abandoned. To Career Closet, which makes sure that the women who go there are outfitted with clothes so that they can get jobs. To College Track, which ensures that the students are not forgotten halfway through their college career. They have enough money to actually finish. And then there's Build, which helps miniature entrepreneurs become big entrepreneurs. All of it's giving back to nonprofits that make a difference, and that makes me feel good.
We're here with a beautiful 1935 Rolls Royce. And David, the owner of this beautiful car, is going to give us a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about the history of this car, if you would, David.
Sure. My dad found this car in 1975, and we started showing it together at that time when I would come and visit him, and I started driving him and chauffeuring a little bit when I got a little older in 78, and taking it up to Silverado, doing the cleaning and detailing, and really enjoyed it together. It became our thing.
Well, that's quite the story that it permeates a little bit, because I know my dad and my brother and I, we played with restoring some Ferraris and some Jaguars, and that becomes a real family scenario. So I appreciate you bringing that out, because that really happens in a number of these automobiles. But it sounds like, did you get this beautiful car pretty well restored when you first got it?
Yes, we did. It was in very much this condition, and we just did the best we could to keep it in this condition, as I'm trying to do for my son.
That's a hard work just keeping it in that condition. That's a long road to hoe. And then, because always something wears out that you got to go try and find that part to keep it original. And this is pretty original, yes?
It is. It's very original, and we've tried to keep it that way. Most recently, I had the front seats covered from the wear and tear of getting in and out, but I've kept the original upholstery underneath. And so as much as I can, I've kept just the way it was in 1935.
Ah, it's spectacular. The colors just are gorgeous, the woodwork. Let's take a minute and we'll go look at some of the details here.
Sure, I'd love to show you. Let me show you my favorite part.
All right, so we've popped the hood on this beautiful piece of machinery, and you said you were going to tell us about your favorite part of this automobile.
Well, I really love the interesting mix of materials on this side of the car. And you have the brass in gold, you have aluminum block, and you have the black lacquer covering the air cleaner, covering the valves. You have this great bakelite in brown. It's just really, I think, really interesting with all the mechanics on this side of the car.
Well, certainly it gives you a whole different perspective when you see something that is as beautiful as this, but not heavily restored over the last 20 years. It's pretty much, this is what you bought and this is what you got.
It's very much like that. It's very much like that. I've, as I say, done the best I can not to hurt anything. Done a few little things under here, but for the most part, it's just the way we found it.
And I smell the engine's warm. You drove it here today.
I drove it from Napa today. It's a really great drive down here. It's cool. It's a beautiful location to come to. I just think it's the perfect drive for this car.
Of course, you don't mind that the people pay a lot of attention to you as you're driving down the road, do you?
It's fun. There's a little bit of waving going on, people honking their horns, a lot of thumbs up.
Okay, so David's gonna take us a little tour of the inside, which is the leather is still original.
This is original leather, original carpets in this part of the car, and this is a really fun part of the car that everybody loves. These floral vases, it's just really fun. The jump seats in the back, my kids just couldn't get enough of those. The divider window, which we've taken people on wine tours, you put the window up, people can enjoy champagne in the back. And of course, it's really interesting to have the Landaulet, which opens up a convertible just for the passengers. And so it's a really fun part of the car, and people really enjoy that.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see that done here in the 2012 era? Because it's such a beautiful aspect of the automobile that you've got the driver protected from the elements, but the people in the back can have all the fun. I love this part.
Yeah, it's a really neat part of the car. I think it's really neat. And in fact, underneath this seat, you'll find seat belts that I had installed so that when my kids were small, we could strap kids' seats back there and they could ride with the top down.
You don't point that out to the judges, though, do you?
Well, I've got it underneath the seat there.
Well, David, this is a beautiful piece of machinery. Thank you so much for taking a tour with us and giving us all this insight.
You bet. Thank you so much. I'm happy to show the car.
We're taking the long view of this beautiful 1959 Cadillac. There's nothing quite more than the extraordinary statement its tail fin and tail lights make. Whenever you see something about the 50s, what do you see? You see this Cadillac and all of its beautiful tail fins and its bullet lights. Takes you back. All right, we've been through the beautiful old Rolls Royces. Certainly the English craftsmanship stood out back then. It still stands out. Here we have a beautiful 2011 Aston Martin, a list price of $220,000. I've had the good fortune to drive a DB9 drop top. It's a V12. It's an extraordinary piece of machinery. So we've kind of given you the long view of the whole beautiful concourse here. We've seen all the old cars. Now here's a new variant. Still beautiful, still fabulous. What a great day.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.
Bobby Decker is an award-winning veteran of the real estate industry. She has assisted hundreds of clients in Northern California to buy and sell properties successfully, as well as educating the public via her television, web, and/or newspaper articles.
As a former high school teacher of biology, my students' success was my #1 priority. Now, as a real estate broker, educating and informing my clients and readers and viewers is my new priority. Hello there. We're here with Joe Cucchiara, and you know he's the manager with Partners Mortgage, as well as being a radio host for Real Estate 360, and he's going to enlighten us as to alternatives today, as far as if you don't want to get this reverse mortgage, if it's just too complicated for you, that there are some other really great ideas out there and plans.
Right, Bobby. We talked about reverse mortgage, which is a great product, but the alternatives are to people that necessarily aren't senior citizens, but retired. In this valley, we're seeing people that are retiring at 45 and 50, whether they're going to have another job or career, we don't know. But in many cases, they don't have W-2 income, they don't have any income flow, but they do have a lot of assets. So if you have several $1 million of assets, for instance, there are programs that will allow people to finance, and they will look at those assets and break it down and actually give them a monthly income, believe it or not, over a period of time to allow them to get financing where that didn't exist before.
Well, see, and that's a great point to make, because when we talk about reverse mortgages, we're talking 65 and older.
Right.
So you are talking a more senior portion of the retired
Right.
people. When you're talking these alternatives, we've got people retiring at 45, lucky them. Although I don't know, I think I'd get a little bored in that little avenue. But explain some of these.
Yeah, so it's a little tricky, but it's good to know, and I'm surprised how many people when I talk to them, but boy, I'd love to get a finance, I'd love to take advantage of these low rates, or I'd love to be able to buy the second home or vacation home, but I understand I can't because I don't have any income anymore. And I'll dig a little deeper and find out, well, in fact, they don't have an income stream from traditional, income, W-2, et cetera. However, they do have enough assets in their retirement accounts or qualified accounts that would allow them to use that as income, believe it or not. So you set up a system with their financial advisor where they start taking a payment. Let's say they need $10,000 a month to qualify. So we get a situation where we take a qualified IRA, for instance, and make sure that they're getting $10,000 a month from that, and that's showing coming into their checking account every month, and technically they qualify for that loan now.
See, that is fascinating, but and one thing that you keep cautioning, and I think it's in our DNA now, is the fact that you have to get that trusted individual. Right. Do not try to do this on the internet. Please, please don't. There's no person there for you to go to. I tell that to my first-time buyers, and I tell that to my retiring. Yeah.
And it's littered with scam artists, let's face it. I mean, internet is a great place for people to hide because there's no face. Like,
that's right.
If they meet with you, we meet with me, they have an understanding, you have an office, you have a career, you have an idea of what you're getting with. So be careful with the online for sure. So meet with someone that understands financing and then have them take you through those steps. And then the next thing is have them put something in writing. I always tell people.
Yes.
Then meet with your financial planner, meet with another trusted advisor to make sure, double check, that this is something that's right for you.
And it's something you have to do. You can never, you've spent your entire life building your assets. You don't want to give them away on the internet.
Right, absolutely.
So, and what are some of the, you've established this stream. Is there anything else? I know that they don't have what they call bridge loans anymore.
Well, they don't, but there are other financing options. And so that brings up a good point. There's bridge and there's gap financing. It's still available, believe it or not. Now, it might not be as attractive, but there are lenders in other ways. For instance, you're trying to sell this house over here and it's owned free and clear and it's worth $1 million, but yet you want to be able to buy this house over here and use the equity or leverage that.
Correct.
There are ways to do that. Now, again, you have to systematically put a program together, meet with your financial experts, the realtor, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and understand how that money flow is going to work and when this transaction is going to take place and get the details. But it's available. There's some interesting financing available still if you get with the right people.
And although it may seem expensive, one thing I did want to really drill down on, selling your home in this market with the inventory so low and the buyers out there, just there's so many buyers because it's a frenzy.
Yeah.
And lucky us for being in Silicon Valley.
That's right.
Because I can tell you it's not happening in the Midwest or many, many other places in the United States. But here, that's what's happening. Do not sell that large house first, and then think you're going to go out and look for another home, because you may be in rental housing for a long time.
Yeah, the danger is, and you're right, you make a good point, even in a market like this, which most of us know the house is probably going to sell very soon, but what if it doesn't? It really puts them in a stressful situation, something you don't want to be faced with. So make sure absolutely that you have the right things in place that house sells, or you have equity from it, or use of equity from it, to close this transaction, because it could take months, or it could take a year to sell that home. You just don't know. None of us will.
And again, the problem is that they didn't look ahead. They thought, well, I'm going down. No one's going to want a condo, right? They happen to be the hottest thing. Ground level condos are the hottest thing. I wish I could replicate them over and over and over, because people are moving away from stairs, moving away from commutes, moving into community, because they're concerned, what if something happens to one of us? So it's just amazing. And I was floored when I went up to Del Webb at how many of them are struggling now. They got in their 60s, it's 20 years old, they're in their 80s. Losing partners, and they don't want the big house with the almost half-acre lot.
Right, no doubt about it. And just remember, 2 years ago, people wouldn't even consider condominiums, and now it's crazy. But the other thing I want to mention before I forget is the plan, Bobby. I mean, to sit down with your trusted advisors, I can't talk about the plan enough. Too many times people shoot from the hip, or they get advice from their neighbors or their friends or their coworkers, right? Before really sitting down with an expert like yourself, for me, when it comes to financing or the financial planner, what are the tax consequences? What are we getting into here?
Perfect.
So sit down and design a plan.
You can't, can you imagine getting on an airplane and sitting down and saying, now where is the airplane going? Hello.
Or is this
where do you want to
qualified?
go? Precisely. So thank you. That's all great information. Thanks so much, Joe,
You're welcome.
for coming
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us again. We'll have more interesting guests as we go along.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.
I'm at Gallerie, CITI, and I'm here with Kathleen Solmssen. And how did you come to this wonderful opening?
I came to this opening partly because I am addicted and obsessed by shoes. So the artist painted about a half a dozen of my shoes. And when I saw the painting, I felt like doubting Thomas, because I really had to get up and touch those shoes to see that, in fact, it wasn't a photograph. She is so talented. And we met when we lived down the hall from one another in North Beach.
Kathleen, that is such a cool story. And the vibrant colors show up in her paintings as well.
Yes, they do. And if I can lean back, because I'm not ready to do a yoga position, this is a pair of shoes that, in fact, she painted. So, of course, I had to wear them tonight, coordinate my outfit to match.
Now, you have a great story about someone with a Christmas tree on her roof.
I do, but I can't remember what it was.
It's following you down from a party in your colors.
Oh, yes, thank you so much for reminding me.
I'm so good at reminding people of stuff.
So I was leaving Costco, and I was on the freeway, and a girl kept beeping her horn at me and beeping her horn at me. And I rolled the window down and said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I just have to see. I saw you at Costco, and I love your colors." And I do want to tell you a little thing about this. I bought the shoes and had nothing to match, and I saw a fabulous cashmere Dana Buckman jacket at the Junior League thrift shop in Palo Alto, and so I just had to buy it. It was a size 4, and this is proof of it. So I cut it up and made this little scarf. So you can do anything with anything.
You have a design business, yes?
I am luckily, because of this ring, able to be retired. But I make a lot of things for charities. And the artist, Elizabeth Barlow, and I are both totally addicted to shoes. I mean, I look at a face and I look at shoes. I noticed yours right off, if we could sort of scan down to her shoes. I look at faces and shoes, and sometimes my husband says, "Aren't those shoes killing you?" And I said, "Of course they're killing me. But look, I'm wearing them and they look fabulous." I probably have 300 pair of shoes. And when Elizabeth came over and had lunch on our deck and picked out the shoes, I think it was a little bit tricky for her to find 5, 6, 7, 8 of them that she would paint.
Well, they are terrific, and their colors in it are fabulous.
Thank you. Well, they kill my feet, but I love wearing them.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.